Welcome back to the Bruderhof YouTube channel. We are in the last section, part 4 of Following the Call. And this section is called Kingdom Priorities. And it's going to be great to work through this. We're on chapter 39, Lasting Treasures, and the verse is Matthew 6:19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And John Wesley puts it right out there at the beginning of this chapter. Lay not up for yourselves treasure upon earth. This is a flat, positive command, full as clear as thou shalt not commit adultery. All right, so there's other commands that Jesus gives us that are very clear, and we know that we have to obey them. If we didn't obey them, people would question whether we were really Christian. Mm-hmm. But is that the case for this command? Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth. How many of us actually keep more than we need and are disobedient to Jesus' teaching? And what he's saying here is our treasures in heaven are the good we do with our material wealth to those who don't have. And that really needs to be a focus of our life.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think going back to the overview of this section was helpful for me after reading the chapter, because it's pointed out here that, this is a narrow way that Christ demands us to walk. And not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, so that we have to put Christ's words and commands into action. And those actionables can seem really daunting, but they're actually very clear and distinct. And that's also why we're called to help each other with that. And it talks about in this overview as well that if you don't do that, your house is built on sand and will not withstand the storms of life. So I thought that was interesting to think about this chapter in context of actual actions and in living out the will of God versus just talking about it. And I think that's very true with this command to not lay up treasures for yourself, because that is actually working hard. And or the concept of laying up treasures for yourself, often, it comes from hard work and from people trying to support themselves. But it's interesting how the first author talks about wise stewardship and taking care of your family and those immediately around you, but then not letting selfishness prevent you from being the hands and feet of Christ to the least of these and reaching out to support the vulnerable. But the end of the chapter is what I found really challenging. The last author that contributed, A.W. Tozer, is that how you say the name? Talks about how this possessiveness is sort of at the root of evil in each human heart, and how we can't just be careless in addressing that. It's a struggle and a battle, and we shall need to steel ourselves against the piteous begging once we've expelled that. Expelled that problem within ourselves. So it's definitely just an ongoing curse and struggle, I think, for each of us individually and then together as a community.
Yeah, I think the struggle is possibly when we focus too much on the first part of this. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. I remember when I was first deciding to really follow the words of Jesus and contemplating what that meant. That was in some ways a stumbling block. And we actually see that in the gospel when we read the story of the rich young man, right? There's many commands of Jesus that are obvious, right? We shouldn't have immoral relationships. We shouldn't, steal. We shouldn't lie. We should respect our parents. All these we can do. But when it comes to giving up what we think of as ours, we're left with feelings of insecurity, feelings of what will happen feelings of I won't be able to do what I want, and can't I just, hold on to it? But what Jesus is asking for here, he's asking for everything, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if we focus on the first part, that can make us fearful and make it seem like a very hard struggle. But if we focus on the second part, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, right? That kind of reorients us in life to, stepping back from, these very material concerns and realizing, our lives are pretty short.
Yeah.
And in the context of God's kingdom, the things we have or don't have are really not that important. And we really should, if we have actually any brains, be really focusing on, the greater and in living lives that are pleasing to God by caring for the poor and making sure that we aren't wasting the gifts that we are given.
Yes, and right along with that is something that Clement of Alexandria points out about how, in the end, it's not the one who keeps, but the one who gives away who is rich, and that is such a truth, and how our joy and happiness depends on giving. You really can't have any of that without it. It's like buying the whole field for joy, and that God gives us these riches that cannot be taken away and cannot be destroyed. So I like that sentiment as well. It's really
and it's a mystery really why God distributes things unequally, right? Why some people, have, talent in one area or good looks, or why some families seem to be cursed with one illness after the next, or have one crisis after the next. We don't understand why these things happen, and we're not probably meant to. But possibly part of the reason is that it gives each of us the opportunity to spread what we've been given, the gifts that we've been given, large or small, and help others in what they have to face. And each one of us can do that. So these are ultimately encouraging words. They give us something to do, laying up treasures in heaven. So hopefully you find them encouraging as well, and it would be interesting to hear your experiences in life as you try to live out these teachings. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.